Hey everyone, this is Vikram for Glitch. So this time we're going to have both video and audio podcasts. So however you're listening or wherever you're listening, if you get to see me, hi. So in this episode we have Hardik with us. Hardik is a cloud enthusiast. He reached out to me on the things he's doing, and I thought I'll have an interview with him to know what's happening in this domain. I'm not from cloud background, so it was a really helpful session for me to ask what are things happening in cloud, what's his project, and how he came into this career. And there were a lot of insights he shared on how to make a career in cloud technology. Since I was not from this background, it was super exciting for me to ask all kinds of questions, and he was patient enough to answer those. He was a really exciting guy. He really loves what he does. So I think the energy was conveyed in the episode. You will get to see that. I have shared his contact details. If you want to ask more on this topic, or if you want to have more in deep discussion with him, you can definitely reach out to him and let me know if you want such a video podcast more. I'll be happy to do that. So let's get to the episode. Again, welcome to my podcast. Cool. So before we dive into the entire topic, probably you can start with telling about of yourself, like any other version you want, short, long, however it can be.
Sure. So as you know, my name is Hardik Ruparel. I'm currently based out of San Jose. I work here as a software developer at Nutanix in San Jose. My goal is like I've been like a cloud engineer for like 3 years of my industry experience out of four, and
Mm-hmm.
I am hands-on in this field. And like I read a lot of research paper in cloud, and right now I'm just if you call me like if you describe me in 2 words, I'm like a cloud enthusiast right now. So, I'm hands-on in this field. I love doing what my day-to-day office work, and yeah, particularly, distributed systems, cloud, and that's been like my office work. But apart from that, I also do a lot of giving back to the community, because like I feel that I was grateful enough, or I was lucky enough to have access to the resources that my
Mm-hmm.
parents
Mm-hmm.
gave me. But I feel that not a lot of people have an access to all of those things. So I feel that I have to do every bit of my my effort and my time to just help a lot of people. So that's what I do, and that's why I mentor students. Like I'm a cloud coach, and yeah, I think that's pretty much been my journey.
That's Yeah, we'll get to the other part which you said about giving back to the community. You're everything which I'm not. I'm someone who's from firmware, and you're from cloud. It's going to be a good podcast episode. So what first got you into this cloud technology? Like what was the moment you thought, okay, yeah, this is it.
So I think it's quite fascinating, the journey. So I have always been a FIFA and a PS fan. Like I
Okay.
used to play a lot back in undergrad and this thing. So one fine day, I was just playing, and I realized something called as an online multiplayer. So I just went up to, I went on Google. I just searched what exactly that is, and then I was just fascinated by the terms like geo distributed data centers or private cloud, as we say, and it was all like a black box to me. I did not understand any bit of it. Like the first year engineering student, I was just doing my calculus. Like I don't know what that is. So, moving on in life, I was lucky enough, so I was involved in a side project called Meri Dukan. It's like a mobile gaming
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
application that I developed while I was in newbies. The application helps, students in rural parts of India, China, and Singapore learn more about financial literacy, and teach them basic financial concepts like what is banking, what is why do you why should farmers take loan from the government instead of local money lenders, to prevent their exploitation. So we were able to scale that application, and we were able to reach around like 180K students. because of cloud. And that is when I realized that, wow, like something as simple as this can be, reached out to so many, like we can reach out to so many people and make it accessible. So I think that is all. I think it's a combination of these two factors that, made me, really fascinated in this field. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's all nice to hear when you say these big numbers, right?
Yeah.
120K or things like this. It's nice. So let's say you are trying to explain it to someone what's cloud, like to a general audience. Because once we get into the other topics, I don't want people to lose some traction into this. So can you give a small explanation of what exactly is a cloud? In a
Absolutely.
technical term.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think first I'll explain it in the layman sentence. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, like for first year undergrad students like me, or high school students like me. So let's say you like I'm on my laptop right now. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
you do not have a laptop and you still want to access the internet and you still want to access like all the computer functionality that you have on laptop. So that is what that big companies like AWS, GCP, Azure, they provide you the compute, the storage. All you got to do is, like, let's say you have just a very basic like processing power and you need to play like
Mm-hmm.
FIFA or something like that. So that is what these companies do, that they give you the compute. It's like something on rent. Basically, you pay as you go. How much ever resources you want, you can use it, but you have to pay a cost for it, right? So that is what basically the cloud is. You do not have to manage any resource. Everything is managed by them. You just have to pay. You just have to
Mm-hmm.
use them. You focus on the things that you want instead of focusing on, what laptop should I buy or what should I do, things like that. So yeah, so that's cloud in a very basic, a vanilla definition of it. But
Mm-hmm.
I think one to be to dive deep into the technical aspect of it, like cloud is such a beautiful concept. It's like, think of it that it's a combination of operating systems, your networking, distributed systems, and concurrency, and all these factors. Like, let's say that you want like 100 TB or like 1 petabyte of storage. Like, it's very difficult for you to get in one computer, right? So that is where distributed systems comes into picture. That you have a bunch of like 10 or 100 computers, that gives you 1 petabyte storage, and they
Mm-hmm.
work
Mm-hmm.
in such a consensus that it's just fascinating to see that everything's just so consistent, just so available for you anytime that you want. So it's like, yeah,
It's always
that's the
available.
definition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You are giving me the sparkling eyes definition for me to even see this, because there's no constraint. It seems like it's ever growing. The storage is like petabytes and terabytes. These are storages for
Absolutely. Yeah.
a new software domain. So coming to becoming a cloud engineer, and what path did you take? Like you are a cloud 3.54 years experience, right? So what's your
Yeah.
journey?
So I think, so as I said that I was working on that Meri Dukan application, and I realized the power
Mm-hmm.
of, the cloud. So I decided to take, like I wanted to enhance my skills in that. So I decided to pursue my master's. That's why I came here in the US in 2021. I did my master's, and yeah, I was able to land a job in distributed systems cloud domain. And, it's more of like, that this master's journey has been so much of a transformative journey for me as a professional, as a personal experience, and the industry experience that I'm currently working in. It's like it's all the combination of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite short. I mean, it sounds quite short. It's not. You try to say like from 2021 to now 2024. You just skip the entire part. I know how big it is, and I have heard my other cloud guys talking about a lot of things. It's ever growing. It's not like you learn this
Absolutely.
technology now and after 1 year. It's same with other technologies, but in cloud, I'm keep on hearing this new term. Before it was all distributed systems, AWS. Now people are talking about Gen AI. I'm like, dude, it just got into
Absolutely.
the market and you people are started to deploying it in your clouds. So yeah, it's challenging and it's also exciting for someone who's seeing all the way down from firmware. It's all looking exciting for me. So what's this skill set you would, I mean, I'm directly diving into technical skills, but it might seem odd to have this in the introduction question, but how do you think skill sets like reading from universities and things like which you start from basics and right now which you're
Sure.
working on lay the ground zone for you to even see a cloud and start reading, not to get intimidated from this new tech terms and stuff?
Absolutely. I think I just want to, circle back on the previous term that you said, that Gen AI, right? I mean,
Yeah.
in fact, if you see that Gen AI is right now the buzzword in the industry, but however, like because of Gen AI, so I recently published a paper on the effect of Gen AI on cloud data security. So I was fascinated to see that, Gen AI is actually doing more harm to cloud data security as well. So there is one version of ChatGPT called as, it's a jailbreak version of ChatGPT, and it can generate malware codes that are not detectable at all. So now imagine the
Okay.
amount of research that it goes into the fields like ethical AI and cloud data security to put up the guardrails against these kind of attacks. I mean, it opens a whole lot of avenues. So I feel that cloud security, cloud data, just to protect cloud data, it's gonna the research to do that. It's gonna exponentially increase in the coming years. And coming to the technical skills of it, like just get your concepts clear in terms of operating systems, distributed system networking. How does it work? So it's not like,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
feel that it's not like, I was talking to a few students, and like they have written skills like AWS and GCP in their resume. But then when I interviewed them, like it's a technical mock interview, I asked them like, what do you know about AWS? They just point towards directly towards the certification. And I feel that certifications, it is good to have it, but I mean cloud spans a lot more than certification. I mean, you have to get your concepts clear in all of these. How does it work internally? Like, like let's say if I ask you that you and me are logging into the same Google Drive account, how do you handle concurrency? How do you do stuff like that? I know how to log in, but
Yeah.
what goes underneath it, it's that's the thing that we are looking for, even when we hire software developers in our company. So universities, they'll teach you all of these concepts, and the professors are also going to give you all of these projects as well. Like, and those projects are really amazing. Like if you I took up the parallel and distributed computing course, for example, and
Mm-hmm.
I learned so much about multi-threading. Like it was just so amazing. Like he was giving us assignments every week. It's all practical. It's all like 300, 400 lines of code that you have to write in C++, and then you realize that how it works and how to save the data from being manipulated by two or three threads. So if you go in that depth of detail, like in that depth of knowledge, you'll understand that what cloud exactly is, and like how is cloud actually working in the background. So yeah, so all of these skills are quite important. So just do all of the assignments. In fact, take up extra courses as well. So there is one amazing lecture by MIT professor in distributed systems. He has posted every lecture online, and he has also
Mm-hmm.
made his assignments, questions public. You can just go there, you can just check it out, you can just implement it by yourself, and you'll learn a lot. So you
Yeah.
need not go to university. You can just go on YouTube and do it. Yeah.
You have actually touched three in-depth question I had following up, so I need to get you back on the few things you touched upon. First, going for the
Right.
certificates part. So let's say beyond certificates, what's this technical skill you think that gives a candidate noticeable edge? For example, something which companies crave for. You did touch on things like AWS and concurrency and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, but people, I see people do drive. Even for myself, I tried getting one of my certification on AWS just to know what's existing in the cloud when it all started back in 2016, I guess. But yeah, certificates do get you to a point, just give you some confidence and
Absolutely.
everything, but it all comes on onto hands-on implementation and everything. But what where does this trade-off lies? Yeah, you need certification from AWS to even touch their
Absolutely.
clouds, but what gives you the noticeable edge in a company, in an interview? What you did different?
So absolutely. So I think if you see at certificates, they'll teach you how to do stuff on cloud, like how to upload data on cloud, how do you hit the APIs, or how do you use cloud for your use case, right?
The
But we are
one-on-ones,
actually,
yeah.
yeah, the one-on-ones, exactly. But we are actually more interested, and in fact, that really excites us is that we ask the question, why did you use this? Or rather, we want the candidates to know when to use it. Like for example, if you have an S3 store and you have a normal SQL database, cloud database, we want the candidates to answer the question, why did you use S3 over another? And if we give them a question in an interview, that we want them to know, and we ask them this question, like when to use this. So if they answer these two questions, that really excites us, that they have they are able to apply the knowledge that they got via certification in a real life problem. So the interviews, that the question that I asked, like for example, implement a Google Doc or something like that. So when to use SQL storage, like probably it's for the metadata, and when to use S3 like storage, something like that. So if they're
Mm-hmm.
able to navigate through that problem and give us like really convincing answer, that's when we feel
So
that this
you're
candidate.
saying the debugging mindset is what primarily lies. It transcends
Yeah,
across the software domain. You need to know your debugging stuff. But I see in cloud you are looking for something extra because there's always some parallel processing happening. It's not like
100%.
my
Yeah,
domain where it's mostly single threaded and you contain that thread. But here I see it's across multiple concurrencies, distributed systems. So you need to maintain the
absolutely.
session, and that's
Yeah,
where. So let me dive to the other side of the stuff. For example, I do have my team meetings with the cloud team here. So they normally have this, I would call it four pillars in cloud, like task, operation, technology, and product. So normally any cloud job or any cloud technology is going to revolve around these four pillars. Like what's the task, what's your operation, what's your technology you're going to use, and ultimately what's the
correct.
product. So what does your everyday work look like? So how, what it is? You don't have to
Sure.
share everything about company secrets or anything.
Absolutely.
Just you can brush off, share how much ever you want.
Absolutely. So I think a lot of our time goes in code reading as well. Like for example,
Mm-hmm.
if we are given a new project, we first like design a well-formed design document. Like it takes like 1.5 month. It takes a lot of rounds of discussion because there are like 10 ways to do things. Like we have to choose the most optimal one because in cloud performance is very important along with consistency and reliability as well. So we have an in-depth discussion about, let's say if we can squeeze like 1 millisecond out of in any way, we are going to do that. Like that's how this industry works. So, like design takes like a good few months to do, and then the implementation takes. But within the design phase, you have to read a lot of code, the existing code, because you have to work on it. And if you break or if you miss anything, the multi-threading is just going to go haywire, and then
Yeah,
you'll have to
there's always
debug
a
a lot
race
of code.
conditions. Yeah.
Yeah, always. Yeah, so you have to do that, and then comes the testing. So I feel that the development part is there, it's
Mm-hmm.
significant as well, but I think the most crucial phases is designing and testing because we need, when we deliver products to our customer, we need to have a good image in the industry as well that our products are reliable,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and it is the lead's responsibility, the feature lead's responsibility to develop and design those documents, and the product as well. So I think that's how it spans, like from the inception of the product to the delivery. So yeah.
That's That's nice. You gave me a new question, which I did not even write. So it seems like choosing the right cloud model is everything. Like, for example, public, private, or hybrid, whatever model you're choosing. And
Absolutely.
it's like choosing a team. So, how do you think companies or business should treat this as a problem statement? For example, should it be in the design state itself? You should decide, okay, I'm going to choose this
Sure.
model and I'm going to stick to this, or the team churns it around. Because I think in cloud, while development you also discover a few things, or how does it go?
Absolutely. I think so. Of course, there are a few iterations when you develop, when you start developing, you realize that, hey, like we should pivot basically. So that's there. But I mean, if we want to choose the right kind of model, like private, public, or hybrid, so I think
Mm-hmm.
the first question is like, what is the data that you're handling? Like, is it like, regulatory, data that you do not want, the data to go out of your country or, out of the region as well. So you have to
Mm-hmm.
figure out like what are the constraints that you have, and uh, for example, if so private cloud offers you a lot of control over the data, but of course you have the overhead of managing the data, but the cost is significantly lower than the public cloud. But so that is what, like when you formulate the design problem, or when you formulate the solution for that, you have to figure out a nice sweet spot between the cost, control over the data, and what the customer actually wants. So that those three questions, if you answer this, you'll and of course you need to have your concepts clear about public, private, and hybrid cloud as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
actually, there's a new field called as hybrid multi-cloud as well. So it's like,
Okay.
yeah,
I
from
was
one
not aware
private
of this.
cloud,
Yeah.
yeah, from one private cloud, you replicate data, you store data to multiple clouds like AWS, Azure, GCP, or
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
other hybrid clouds. So yeah, so if you have all of these concepts clear, you will automatically arrive at a solution by answering these 3 or 4 questions that you have.
I think I skipped a big part that we are taking cloud for granted. I want you to just to give a perspective of how huge we are talking about. For example, how big Netflix handles its traffic or any video streaming instrument, because cloud is huge. And yeah, saying
Absolutely.
1K, 1 terabyte makes sense for me and probably fellow cloud members who are going to listen. But for a common public, I really want you to put the perspective on how huge a cloud management is.
Absolutely. So I think, okay, so Google Drive offers you like 5 GB of free storage, right?
Yeah,
I mean, right now I'm at that stage that I cannot survive without Google One. I have to upgrade my Google Drive because 5
everyone.
GB is
Yeah,
too late. Yeah, exactly, right. So that is what it's going to happen. Like if you look at a few years back, your phones had like 32 GB or 16 GB of storage. Right now you
true.
cannot work more than 128 GB because the 20 GB itself takes the operating system to download, and if you update a new Mac or something. So you have to have that kind of storage. So storage is going to be a requirement. Okay. And for public, if you see that, are you going to go back to your old photos? Like, for example, if I have a document, I have a habit, to capture a photo so that I can
Yeah.
reference it or I can scan it later. Now, if the now our memory is so short that we forget like what we scanned or something like that. Are you going to go back in time and you're going to delete that, or you're just going to keep it as is? Because of course you do not remember it and it's too much of effort.
It's
Like, why do
there.
you want to
Yeah,
take
it's a
it?
garbage data.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. So the data is going to accumulate year over year, and it's just everything digital. I mean, there's no escape of that. And I think that's the best part of like, and of course, that's the storage part of cloud, but also the compute part of cloud as well. If you look at it like OpenAI, the chat GPT model, it has to train regularly on this thing, right? The new data that is coming
true.
up, like
Yep.
web scrapers. Yeah. So, like the compute also needs to be a bit more efficient because the training time it has to reduce, and things like that. Compute is also going to go up because of all of the new LLMs. Everything is moving on the
Yeah,
cloud.
yeah.
Even the operating system we put on cloud, it's compute as well. So yeah,
You brought in an interesting perspective to my entire narrative. You got the right example, because I am a guy who literally survives on Google Photos. I don't know what kind of Google Photos
abs-
I have. It's all there. I brought the upgraded version of, I don't know how many storage I have, probably TBs or something,
yeah,
and it's all there. And it's the cloud which is constantly storing. It's giving me suggestions like, okay, these people, there's memory, and you go back like 8 years
absolutely,
back in your time. And it was all before, like for example, 4 years before, I used to have all my music and pictures in my local storage, and it's no longer there. I don't
exactly,
have any of my pictures. And I think we have also crossed the point where we are not so conscious about digital footprint. We are
yeah,
fine in Google or Facebook training from our pictures, because it's no point in protecting everything and going back to your cave zone mentality. But
absolutely,
it puts a huge perspective, an interesting perspective in your day-to-day life, that cloud is there. And cloud is anyway in the back end. It's running, and it's not appreciated much in my opinion, because the security perspective, there is storage, there is computation, and all this data is somewhere someone like you is working and protecting it, so that nothing gets out of the account
the
details.
bounds,
Yeah,
yeah.
the boundaries. So what are the how to put it, what are the problem statements you would face? For example, I know with embedded systems, my thing, it's probably kbs, and I break my head with such storage. So how do you handle this data to not to be leaked, or is it already been leaked? Because there's a big $1 million question. Google is training
Absolutely.
from my everything. So how safe is it?
Absolutely. So I think industries usually, so like for common people like us, like we just upload on Google Drive and we rely on the Google
Yeah.
Cloud security for, to handle the stuff for us. But I think when it comes to businesses or organizations, they have, like, there are a few startups, there are a few companies that work in this particular space, and they have their plugins compatible to the cloud. For example, let's say if you're working on AWS, if any company has a lot of data on AWS, so in the AWS marketplace, there are like a few plugins or something like that that continuously, that can scan your data for malware, that uses all of these AI, ML models, or even like as simple as, they'll see the user access pattern of where this data is being accessed. So there are a lot of startups that are working in this space, and I feel that cloud security is going to be, exponentially increasing in terms of fields. I think I just read a news article sometime a couple of weeks back. There was like a malware attack because of which all the cloud security stocks went up like 5 to 7%, and it was a
Okay.
big one. So yeah, so
Yeah.
it's there. So okay, so I think there's this one interesting take if you see that, like with the increase of compute, the the hashing functions that we use, the security functions that we use,
Exactly.
there's a huge chance that you can reverse hash it and you can get the data out of it, because the computational is going, I think with the launch of quantum computing, and and in fact, like parallel computing that we have with the GPUs and whatnot, so it is quite probable, not right now, but probably, a few years down the line. So there's
Yeah.
this research paper that I was reading about,
Uh-huh.
why security in data archival is pretty hard. So the thing is, let's say you have a 10-year-old data, okay, that you have archived in some digital tapes. Now, the thing is, let's say someone got a malicious access to that data, and someone was able to decrypt that data and, get access to it. So it becomes like, so the thing is, those are like petabytes of data, and the tapes are like, they have like a bounded IO speed, right? So I was reading a stat that if that amount of data, like I think 90 petabyte or something, gets, if it's accessed by a malicious user, it will take you 90 odd days to read the data, re-encrypt it, and put it. And 90 days, I mean, in that time, the malicious user will have access to everything that you own. So it's
Okay.
quite
Okay.
difficult. It's a very difficult problem to solve, security in archival systems.
Yeah, and that's why I really wanted to give a perspective, because talking in TBs and technical terms will give the already known people about it, but the common public will need to trust this, that okay, you know what, the pictures I'm putting in are safe. Not that
Yeah,
if I mean, of course, you don't have your passwords right, and you log into
yeah,
every other device. That's a basic sanity you need to follow. But other than that,
absolutely.
the technology as such is safe, and I think it's more reliable, because now we are going a step ahead with cryptocurrencies and economics coming
Absolutely.
into the cloud. And I don't remember when was the last time I visited my bank. It's all done in online. And so
Absolutely.
it's going, because I remember when I started my career, cloud was this new break in technology. Now it's gone beyond. It's become this, from this new cutting edge to become the reliable technology, and most of us rely on cloud computing. And my job, though I'm an
Absolutely.
embedded engineer, my build machines, my images are over their updates are all going through cloud. So the customer also relies on this. You did talk about this one part where you said Meri Dukan, that side thing of yours. It sounds like this really socially impact powerful thing. So I want you to touch a bit on that. What was the project about? Because I want
Sure.
audience to hear about it.
Absolutely. So I think so it was initially a mobile gaming initiative that we developed, and so it was like, consider it's a Monopoly style board game that you have, where in like each of the Monopoly properties corresponds to a scenario in our game. Basically, you are a owner of a shop, like Meri Dukan in English, it terms like it translates to my shop, right?
My shop.
So yeah, so the idea of the game is like you own a shop for 12 rounds of the game, 12 rounds of the board, and
Okay.
you'll have to optimize the money that you earn by running the shop, and you have to be very ethical to while running the shop. So there's like 2 3 scenarios, and that is how we teach. Like I'm going to dive in each of these scenarios to teach, like how
Yeah,
are
of
we
course.
using these scenarios to teach students about financial concepts. So like there's the first scenario that a custom sell scenario that we call. A customer comes into your shop and asks for a few items. It's a normal grocery shop. You have to do a quick math and you answer it. If you overcharge the customer, that's a wrong decision making skill, right? So we penalize the player and we reduce the game points for them.
Okay. Okay.
And there is something called as ethical decision making, this thing. So it's all based on financial concept. Like let's say there are a few products that are expiring, but you cannot sell them. So I will ask, do you still want to sell them or do you want to throw it away? So if you sell them, your reputation or game points goes down, and if you throw them away, you get a few brownie points.
Is it still there? Can I play this game, or it's no longer there?
No, no, I think it's still there. So the thing is, it works with an NGO called Pratham. So they have like a year courses running throughout the year. So if they teach in that particular semester to students, you can find it on their application. Like it's
Awesome.
yeah.
I'm sorry I
But if not,
interrupted you. You were
yeah,
in a
no,
thought
no, no,
process. Yeah.
no, no.
Yeah.
I think
Continue.
yeah, yeah. So it was a mobile gaming application that we developed, and I think in 2020, COVID hit. All the education centers were closed. Pratham used to teach them on their tablets, but since rural kids might not have access to tablets and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
digital things, so what we did was we used cloud, and that is where it hit me that cloud is such an amazing thing. So we moved the entire application from a local multiplayer, like one tab playing four people playing on a single
Mm-hmm,
tab. We
mm-hmm.
moved it to online multiplayer, and we did
Okay.
that using cloud. And because of that, we were able to, even in COVID times, we were able to reach to those students and keep the learning going, so that they can go to their father's phone. They can simply open like any web browser. It's a web link. You do not. It's not computationally heavy or anything. Just open the phone, enter the URL, and then play the game. So that's how it does. Yeah, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can connect with your friends and play it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm still observing it. That's the reason I asked you the question if I can play, because
Yeah,
these are the problem statement. Most of us become a software engineer. It's not just to sit and code and stuff. And it seems like you did
absolutely.
bring cloud technology into a social good kind of project. And
Yeah.
and of course, during COVID, cloud did face a big boom, and it sounds nice. And I'm still coming out of the Mary Dukan because you mentioned Monopoly, and that's a
Yeah.
game I love to play. Okay, coming back to the every big question. So let's say I really wanted to have this podcast so that it's both beneficial for the common public to have cloud knowledge, because I'm not the guy who
Mhm.
will anyway talk about this, and also someone who's listening to this and who really wants to become next to you or better than us together. And what is the skills that they should start about, right? For example, they are studying computer science in the initial
So,
stages of first year, or they're in school. What would be the thing you will give them to guide?
absolutely. I think one thing that, there's a myth about cloud that, it's a very difficult field. So the thing is, I'm going to break that myth that, it's not that difficult as you think of it is. But I mean, so one thing that, to answer your question, that, if you want to break into this field, it has to be real passion. You have to be determined to, learn all of these concepts, because the thing is, in day-to-day life, there will be debugging scenarios. Like, for example, I was working on one debugging scenario. There are 32 threads that are accessing, like, working on two node this thing cluster, and I had to collect logs. The logs are reordered as well because of the context switching and whatnot. You have to be very, very like determined to solve this problem. So I think a combination of your, of course, technical knowledge, you have to first gain that. And apart from that, if you talk about the non-technical skills, it's determination and passion, and and the embracing the change, because cloud is also evolving at a very fast pace. Like, you have to read a lot of research papers to
That's true.
to be updated what's going on in the industry. And so it's like a combination of all of these skills that makes yeah, one of the top cloud engineers.
So, from what I'm hearing from you and my fellow colleagues here, cloud is one industry where it keeps on accommodating the new. I think they are the first responders of any new technologies coming into the market. You incumbent. I don't know how it's happening, how the design incorporates it, but I hear AI in a year. My company starts, in this production line having AI thread. So, but I have this huge question: what's the difference between cloud backend? Like, there is cloud and there is backend engineer. I mean, I'm hearing these two terminologies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you say about cloud and backend, so backend is usually like, it's like remove the like, if you're working on a full website, just remove the front end part of it. You're managing the controller layer, you're managing the database layer, and how efficiently you can get data from the database back to the controller so that the UI
Yeah,
team can fetch it. So that's like a backend engineering term. But of course, like, cloud is something more specific. Like, if you say that cloud backend engineer, it's like that cloud itself is like AWS is a product, right?
yeah.
So
Hmm.
AWS also has a UI, and also has a backend. So if you say that a cloud backend engineer, you work on how do you handle, like, the concept that I was saying, right? Distributed systems, and you work with those concepts on a day-to-day basis. And that is how, and of course, there'll be works like API development. You have to expose a few APIs to the front end, but
Hmm.
also at the
Hmm.
same time, you also have to work in the core data path, wherein if you get a 1 GB file upload request, how do you chunkify it? How do you store efficiently onto the into the
Hmm.
backend
Hmm.
disks, and efficiently retrieve them, implement the caching layer, so that the the time, the latency is reduced, and things like that. So that is what the actual backend is in terms of cloud.
Okay, so it's more on architecture level and design level
Yeah,
you play around with than the actual implementation part. Because from what you have said, it seems more like you are first deciding where it goes, what's the
yeah,
model, how's the architecture, and then you start implementing and going around with it.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
let's break the hype a little. So what is the
Yeah,
harsh truth you would talk about? Because I do, it's a hyped technology. It's not like it's not so
sure.
posh and everyone doesn't know about it. What's the hard truth about cloud?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, though. I think one thing. So, okay, so this is how I should put it. So, you'll never learn enough about cloud. You'll never feel that you have learned completely about cloud. It's like you have no idea how fast this technology is evolving. So, you need to embrace that thing. Like, you have to, like, this is my schedule. Like, this is what I do. I try to read a couple of research paper per week and 2 to 3 engineering blogs from, Netflix, or, I used to read Twitter blogs and Pinterest as well. So I read all of these blogs to understand. So they have beautifully solved every distributing. So there was this, I think, one problem that I remember reading last month, which I still find very fascinating, is they have solved the distributed counting problem, and how they do it. If you go through, you'll yourself understand, how this system works in the back end. So you know you'll gain the practical knowledge of the concepts that you've learned in your university, or the
The real time
or
examples.
online.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think yeah, that's the harsh truth, that you'll never learn enough about this technology. There will be areas which seems like a black box, and it is very, like, very complicated to, uncomplicated, or if you want to say that. But yeah, I think that's the harsh truth. Yeah.
So this again brings in another, because you said it's a ever growing field, and of course it's
100%.
also fast growing like anything else. For example, it doesn't take 10 years for the new next cloud technology to come in. It's probably next month. So in this
Yeah.
fast evolving landscape, how can someone who's getting started can future proof their skill set? Because you try to gain a skill and it takes at
Sure.
least 2 to 3 years to get into this expert level in the skill. So how to future proof? What are the skill sets you see in next decade? Probably it will, it's good to have tools or
Absolutely.
skill
So I
sets.
think, sure, absolutely. If you're just starting into the this field, so you can just go to YouTube. There are really nice NPTEL courses from IIT College, I think from IIT Madras, or you can just look it up, and you can find operating systems course, the distributed systems course that I was saying. Go to the MIT channel on YouTube to do that, and of course you'll find networking courses and other courses as well on YouTube as well. Just read all of these things. Now try to implement a few projects. One really important project, or one really basic project that I feel, that gives a lot of practical insight, is like spawn 2 processes on your PC, and just try to access one file from those 2 processes, and you'll understand the importance of concurrency and distributed systems.
Concurrency.
Like, yeah, and it'll take you like a simple 1 hour to implement it. And now with ChatGPT, you can just ask it to generate the code, which I would not recommend, because I want you to implement everything by your own, so that you gain the skills. Yeah,
Yeah,
and yeah,
chat GPT code, I don't trust it either. So if you want to generate your own code, write it. Probably go to paper if you're an
absolutely.
old school guy, or type it yourself.
Exactly, 100% on this one, yeah, on this. So yeah, you do that simple project, and take up, and then the assignments that I was talking about, like these advanced courses, like the MIT Distributed Systems courses, the professor has made public their assignment PDF as well. Try implementing that. Try reading. So try reading a few research paper around that area. That will keep on pushing you inside, in depth of all of these fields, and then probably, and of course, you would need an industry experience as well. But if you have all of these big terms in your resume, along with the projects that you've developed as well, so that's like a good entry point for any new grad, or any early professional engineer into the cloud space.
Yeah, I think one important skill is to also have how to read a research paper. It's not like reading a blog. So
Yeah,
reading a research paper itself is a skill, and especially when you're trying to learn a skill like cloud technology or any other technology through a research paper,
absolutely,
you need to understand from the four different author or how many ever author is there in their perspective.
absolutely.
So let's say you are trying to have this resume or sort through resume. What's this one unique unexpected skill you will catch your eye? For example, if I'm interviewing my candidates in embedded systems, I'll not be looking through this technical u-boot or memory mapping. I'll be more excited to know what was the last problem which they failed. you know that's
Yeah,
what kills your ego. I sit with my debugging for months and I
exactly.
find 1 KB missing. So in cloud, what is that one thing you look for in a candidate who has experience or who's from fresh out of college?
I think it's on a similar line that one thing that you failed, or it's on a
Mm-hmm.
similar line that like let's say there's a project that they have written is I developed a web application with S3 backend this thing, but if they write below that optimized the system to do
Mm-hmm.
this,
Mm-hmm.
so we are more interested in that as why did you do it and what made you choose that path, like, and how did you do it as well.
And it need not
So
be the
we
best
are
case. You just want to
yeah,
know
need not
what's
be. Yeah,
okay.
because it kind of shows that you are squeezing performance out of every part of the component of the system, but also trying to make sure that you deliver the best system. So it kind of shows us the passion towards the field that you went above and beyond to make something good better. So I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing
Mm-hmm.
that I usually ask in an interview, and I think a lot of I'm pretty sure a lot of IT professionals like interviewers also ask this, like, yeah,
Yeah,
like,
that's a standard
yeah,
IT
this thing.
question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's the thing that we want to see, that determination and sheer passion for you to delivering something better than you can do. So I think that's how you improve upon yourself every day, and that's the thing. Like as an engineer, and it applies to I think all software engineering fields, that you need to
Yeah.
improve upon yourself every day. So yeah, that's
Yeah, it
the
never stops with your university. That's where
purpose.
everything starts. That's where
Exactly.
they scare you and send you out to the world. So that's taken. Yeah. So I did ask all kinds of questions. So I want you to say, is there anything I missed out? Because you have something to say on this technological field or in your field. You can. It's your platform. I don't want to be a question and answer, not you to bound you into that question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think one thing that I wanted to say is that, I've also, like, I'm also kind of, developing a web platform with a cloud. It's a stealth
Mm-hmm.
project. It's a
Mm-hmm.
cloud backend. So I think my main goal is to help students. So the idea is that, so as a student, I have myself had a fair share of failures, that getting rejections from the interview, or getting rejection. It feels a lot of like it feels quite overwhelming. So to ease the process a bit, like I'm kind of developing a web peer-to-peer platform wherein I'll connect the interviewer with the interviewee, but of course like
Mm-hmm.
a with an aspect that we can have, like, we can prepare the interviewers can prepare the interviewee for their actual coding interview or this thing, so that it reduces a bit of anxiety. If they want job referrals, we can give them, like, they can just reach out to us on the platform. Because I used to go on LinkedIn, I used to spam like 10 people about referrals, and I do, and of course the referrer is also tired of getting all of these spams, right?
True.
So
And your
yeah,
LinkedIn is not friendly for freshers, of course. You need to have some considerable experience for people to even reach out through LinkedIn, and you need such a
absolutely.
peer
Yeah.
to peer. So tell me more about this platform, how it exactly works.
Sure. So I think so. The one thing is I'll onboard the interviewers or the IT professionals who are currently working, and I'll onboard the students or job seekers who want to change jobs as well. They can
Mm-hmm.
connect. If they want a referral, they can just go there, ask for a referral or for a company. It is my job for it is system's job to connect you with the referrer of that company. And we try to we so it's such an unorganized, like, if you just spam on LinkedIn, it's quite unorganized, right? So I'm
Yeah.
making this thing organized. The other thing is that it's there for future versions of this web platform, is that we want to have host webinars from IT professionals
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
who can give tips on resume. Like I do it myself on TopMate. Like I have mentored around like 100 folks, but I think I can just spare like 8 hours on the weekend. But what if there are like 2 3 people? So that comes out to be like 24 hours over the weekend, right? So we can help a lot of more people. So that's the idea. So that's the main goal, that we want to develop a platform that helps students ease their job process, navigate through any question that they have, be it
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
be it very basic, be it very advanced. We are here to help you. And yeah, that's the main
So
goal of
what's
it. Yeah.
this website called? Like it's live now and people can use it.
So I am still developing that. It's live on my local host. Yeah, I'm still
Okay.
testing it. It's that, but yeah, I think I'll just name it something like Easy Referrals or something to start with it. And yeah, I'll
And this will be for across all the domain or just for cloud?
sure, like whatever. No, it can be across all the domain. Like for example, if I onboard like a few consultants who are not in the like for example in the non-technical job, if
Mm-hmm.
other students like in the non-technical field wants to look up for the referrals for that, like I'll just
It's a really good
onboard them.
initiative, man. I mean, because I know how super intense hard it is to find a job in technical domain, and especially with the referral and stuff. So what you're doing will entirely break the intimidation part for the fresher candidate. I don't think.
Absolutely.
I mean, even though they get intimidated, the mentor platform which you were mentioning about the webinar and you syncing up with them, that will reduce their anxiety because most of
Exactly.
the time in interview, anxiety is what kills. Because I see a candidate in my interviews and they really know the answer, but the interview
Huh.
anxiety, even though they are super prepared and they know much better coding, they fail to. I have to bring it out. So your platform probably will do the warm up zone, but
Exactly.
let me ask you a question about the mentor part. For example, let's say there are a few mistakes you would have done. Like for example, I have done a tremendous mistake and I use it to coach my juniors here, my interns. So what is something you did and you probably would are trying to coach it to others?
Absolutely. Like, there are two parts to this question, answer. So basically, the first is that, while writing the resume, make sure your resume is impact first. So the thing is, of course, I'm more interested in knowing what you did it, but I am also very interested in knowing that, like, what impact did it put? Like, or like, can it be like, let's say, as simple as like 100 users? Like, even if it's 100 users, I want to know what is the impact of it. What is the goal? So that is why I recommend people writing a resume in a format like what is the goal, how did you do it, and what is the impact. And if there is a space crunch, I would recommend the mentee to condense point one and two and write it in one thing, but never ever compromise on point number three. And that is the mistake that I did. That my resume focused a lot on what I did and how I did without actually writing the numbers, the impact on it. And
The quantitative
I
part.
yeah, exactly. So you have to quantify the impact. And I faced a lot of rejections for 3, 4 months, but then I realized that there was something wrong with it. I reached out to a few seniors. My seniors were really helpful in that aspect, and they gave me the advice. And I changed it, and I started getting a few calls. I think that's the one part that that you should actually yeah focus on while writing the resume. And from a technical learning point of view, if you want to go in any like for example the cloud field,
Yeah.
instead of knowing what this technology does, you should also know when to use this technology. So that is another level of depth that I want the candidates to
Yeah.
touch.
No, you're told.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So coming to the biggest hype of the market, the AI. There's a lot of
Sure.
hype of AI and stuff. You did also mention about your Gen AI research and stuff. How do you think that is disruptive in cloud technology? Like because it started with mainframe, now it's cloud, and now there's edge computing distributed. Now they're
Exactly.
all talking about AI. What do you see in next coming? How disruptive this AI is in cloud field?
Absolutely. So apart from that cloud security research that I was saying, right, it is also, yeah, breaking the cloud security guardrails and whatnot, like other aspects. But I think there is one more aspect, the cloud models are huge in size. Okay. Now
Yep.
keeping everything in memory can be an issue. So that is where systems also comes into picture, is that, that actually yesterday I was just reading a research paper about how the neurons in that LLM, the weights of those neurons are being cached and how are they being effectively read from cache, and what is the cache eviction, model that they have applied so that the whole the training time reduces. So
Exactly. Yeah.
systems
Yeah.
and
It's a huge.
LLM, yeah,
I think I
exactly. So
also came across this one. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like it's if you go if you go like for example right now Gen AI is like actually the buzzword, everyone uses it.
Yep.
But also like it's the systems and it's the compute storage and everything that is powering those models as well. So I think if that one thing goes up, the other thing is definitely going to follow, and it's going to make things, a bit more performant.
But
Yeah.
don't you also think, for example, in my field, it's same LLM and all this weightage model, I was reading for a technical perspective or the firmware, how it's going to happen. There's always this bottleneck, yeah, this AI is not a new term. It's been there since 40, 50 years back. I have been reading LLM papers in 1990s. So it's a pretty old algorithm,
Sure.
but there's also this bottleneck where yeah I think we are putting a lot of hopes on AI than the actual technology, the architecture of how the AI should
Yeah.
work. So coming from a cloud perspective, don't you think it's going to flood this small architecture we right now have? Because how do you think it will flow?
Absolutely. So I think from my perspective, I think I still feel that, the systems, the systems in the cloud domain, it's gonna, increase a lot in terms of like, the investment that the companies are putting, or,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So I think Microsoft has something called as Project Silica. So it's called that, it's like that you want to store your data for millenniums on I think in a glass, like Project Silica. Yeah. So you can actually do that without any data loss. So so that
Okay.
offloads a lot of, so the thing is, as in, like, if you can imagine 10 years from now, I think AI, and I think with the Tesla launching the humanoid bots and robo
Yeah.
taxi as well. So I think AI is going to be there. It's not going anywhere. I think we are in the something called as an AI era. Like in 2020, we were in the, sorry, 2000s, we were in the networking internet
Yeah,
boom, right?
yeah, the
So right
bubble.
now it's yeah. So right now it's the AI era. So I think it's not going anywhere. And the cloud, actually, it's going to be getting a lot of investments because the data is just there. You have to do it. Compute, you have to make it better for, to train the models better.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
at the same time, you also have to find a sweet spot. Like, for example, like in use cases like IoT or things like that, or for example, on your local phone, like with the Apple Intelligence and something, uh, like you have to optimize, or you have to compress the model as well, so that the performance does not decrease, but you can actually work with limited resources as well. So things like that.
Exactly.
So yeah, so I think that is where the systems problem can also come into picture, that how do you, you know how is the model compressed, and how do you store it on your phone, and
Mm-hmm,
just a
mm-hmm.
local model running. So I think, yeah, the avenues are just yeah, it's just too many avenues. Yeah.
Because yeah I'm working on the spin-off research topic of mine for a research paper, and I was doing a literature survey, and I just realized we always had this concept called IoT. We were calling it mission to mission, and once
Yeah.
people started terming IoT on top of it, it gained a lot of traction, and the growth was exponential. All the companies invested, and the business people wanted to invest on it. And I mean, we can talk and romanticize about technology. It's at the end of the day, the board members need to decide to invest on a project, and that's what
Yeah.
drives the technology next step. So I think this AI, whatever hype it has, it's also having a good driving force from the business people, that they want to put AI in everyone, every technology we see, and we are benefiting from it. The technology is definitely benefiting.
Absolutely.
I was talking with a colleague of mine in Nvidia, and he was talking about what are the things they are working on. It's huge. It's we never even imagined 10 years back. Computation was not this powerful. We were not talking about neuron engines, and this weightage models were not there. The bus bar, which
Yeah.
I'm trying to communicate right now, was in some 200 kbs. Now it's going all the way till MB, and it's like growing this entire model in a
Yeah.
bigger size. So it's good. It's not scary, but it's good.
Yeah.
And the thing which I am jealous is that the new students and new universities which are going to do research on is something which is completely in a next step. Because when I was in my university, we were researching on microcontrollers which were back
Yeah.
in 1990s architecture. Now they are all the way jumped upon to parallel computing and FPGA
Absolutely.
boards and everything. So let me go to the last question. I don't want to drag around.
Sure.
So if you give this cloud developers this superpower, to make your life easier, what would it be? Like it could be anything, but I'm just putting it in a out of the box kind of question.
I think, yeah, if I have like a superpower, I just want, the thing that really aligns with my life goal is that, I want to use cloud in every product, so that, or something, optimize it so well that, each and every, people on this earth can access it, and,
Hmm.
and probably make their lives better. Like it can be anything, like probably any YouTube educational video that you can put it on cloud, you can just share it with them. Or I think, as simple as so actually, I was also working on one more project with a machine learning and a cloud. Was that I was working with an NGO. Students do not have access to like again in the same technical mock interviews or
Mm-hmm.
any mock
Mm-hmm.
interviews, like students in like tier two, tier three cities of India, they do not have access to the career coach. So we were developing like a booth or a simple software that runs on their laptop. Is that so there will be a system prompt generate, like a system will generate a question, and you'll have to answer it. You'll have to answer in 1 minute, and the
Mm-hmm.
webcam will monitor how many times have you touched your face, are you smiling, if you're not smiling, how many times you blinked, so that it shows the nervousness, and then we give out the the a score to them. And we of course the record the answer as well, and we use much NLP on that to how positive the
Mm-hmm. Of
sentiment of
course.
that answer
Mm-hmm.
was. And so all of these things, and of course it was powered by cloud in the backend. So I think if I
Yeah.
had that superpower, I just want to use cloud for people. That's the goal.
That's a great answer, man. Because with your answer, I'm understanding cloud basically takes out the constraint of your dream. You don't have to
Yeah,
constrain your dream with, okay, what's my computation power? Okay, I want to build a FIFA kind of game, but I don't have the resources. Get a cloud,
100% you
work
have.
on it. So
Absolutely.
it's a good field. I mean, I'm exactly opposite to cloud field. I have zero experiences. This is where my job ends. When in my job, when we develop something and cloud comes in, we treat it as a black box, and they do the same. But doesn't mean it's not as exciting. I mean, I see how smiling you are whenever you're trying to explain something, and I think that's what is needed to be in this field, because, as you said, it's changing in month basis. I remember starting of January, we were talking about something else in cloud technology, and now when I was researching for this podcast, it's completely changed. So that's needed. The enthusiasm is always needed, and it's not draining,
Absolutely.
and that's the beauty of this thing. Because sometimes when you go into research paper, it gets boring and it gets blue, and you don't proceed further. You need to go do something else and then come back to this.
Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah.
see you with your smile. I don't think you are ever bored with this stuff. So I will give the outro to you. You can give the end note to the students or the developers or to me, whoever it is, and
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, thanks so much, Vikram, for hosting me on this podcast. I mean, my main goal is just to, like being a cloud enthusiast, I just want to, put this statement out that, that you can use cloud. Cloud is such an amazing field. If there are a few people who are confused about whether to take cloud or ML, probably just give it a try. Both the fields are just really amazing. Just give it a try. Who knows, what clicks for you. So I think that just that, and I mean, yeah, just focus on all the basic concepts, and I think you'll be really, you'll be one of the top, IT professionals in cloud. And just keep your head down, keep working. It's the field that once you develop that passion for it, you're not gonna put your head up ever again. You're just gonna dive deep, 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 and that's it. So I
yeah, it's
think that's that. Yeah, exactly. So I think, yeah, that's pretty much my advice. I mean, to early career professionals or students who want to start here in this field. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And I think this is the perfect platform for me to reach out to other students, and widen my the knowledge spread that I really want to do. So yeah, thanks for hosting this podcast. Yeah,
sure, Hardik. I mean, I started this podcast to talk to general public and to make them less intimidated about technology. And cloud was one technology which I was always intimidated about. I never touch things like, whenever it comes, I have few friends of mine who are in AWS and stuff. I ask them. So this actually made me that it's not so scary. I'm not going to go become a cloud developer or someone, but it did give me that, okay, my data is safe. At the most, this
yeah,
is what it's needed. General
yeah,
public need not be scared about cloud. So it was good having you here. You had the
absolutely,
smile and the excitement. So let's see how my audience get back. If they have questions, I will put your contacts in the description and they can always reach out to you.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
thanks.